council employees of the and notice is mailed from the Times, the Trenton City, the posted on the first floor, bulletin board in City Hall, and filed at the city clerk's office on July 1st, 2006. The agenda for this meeting was mailed, posted, and filed on April 5th, 2007. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Fair, absent. Ms. Thompson.
The record is on vacation.
Mr. Thompson.
Present.
Ms. Marquis. Here. Mr. Malone.
Present.
Mr. Ford.
Here.
Staton.
Here. Thank you. For the record, Mr. Harris will be recording our proceedings. Prosperity. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, read the 5 o'clock portion of the meeting. Subject, summer activities. Appearance by Samuel Frisbee, Director of Recreation, Natural Resources, and Culture. Mr. Frisbee, welcome, sir. I believe this is your first time before us as Director.
Yes, sir.
All right, and I guess we annually, every spring, summertime, have the Director of Recreation, as you come in that capacity, and with the Department Director from Recreation, Natural Resources, and Culture, come before council to give us an update of summer activities. I'm just putting something in perspective here. Summer activities and to answer what seems to be the age-old question, what is there to do in the city of Trenton? Or is there anything to do, or there is nothing to do in the city of Trenton? So, as usual, we've always set the record straight to that extent. And please take that opportunity to introduce yourself, just again as Director, for the record, and then to give us a short but brief synopsis of where we're going this summer.
Council President, thank you so much. My name is Samuel Frisbee. I'm the Director for the Department of Recreation, Natural Resources, and Culture. I am very excited to come before you today to set the record straight once again about what there actually is for not only young people, but for people to do in the city of Trenton, especially during the summertime. And I'm very proud and excited to bring before you this summer. We will probably have more activity than has been in this city in a very long time this summer, notably much more activity than happened last year. And I think we had a great deal of activity last year. Before I even start on what we had to do, I don't know how many of you have ever read the book The Tipping Point. And if you read it, you'll understand where I'm coming from. The Tipping Point is a book that talks about not making major changes to make major impact, but it's timely changes and impactful changes that make great impact. And when we talk about our summer programs, I think the City of Trenton has done an incredible job every summer of really developing and putting out a quality product and putting out a product that people can recognize all over the county and all over the state. I know that when we talk about our summer programs, I have friends in a lot of different places, and when I talk about what we offer in our summer programs and for the cost, I get friends that ask me if they can send their children from Newark and Camden and other places for taking our summer programs here. And I have to tell them after our children are served first. So with that being said, there will be some small tweaks in our summer programs this year. We will continue to run our summer camps. Summer camps traditionally have always started July 5th. Summer camp will be $200 this summer. And that is putting it in perspective for most people. Most of the community-based organizations out there currently are running summer programs for the same amount of time that we're running summer programs for, offering the same exact things that we're offering, but they're charging about $125 a week for young people to go to the summer program. We're charging $200 for the whole summer, which is an 8-week summer, which is about $25 per week per child. For that particular service, every young person will have breakfast and lunch. Every young person will go on a trip every week of the summer, and that trip cost is included in the $200. They go swimming at least twice a week. It's phenomenal what we're able to offer for such a low cost. And our young people never feel like they're slighted one bit in terms of what they receive.
This is what you can almost call us affordable summer camp.
It is summer camp. Really, basically, that's what it is. But we've tried to make sure that the young people are getting something out of this. They're really learning something. As a matter of fact, last year was the first time that we actually ran a summer camp for young people 13 to 17 years old. It was a work readiness and college tour summer camp. Traditionally what we've done, at least for my 3 and a half years that I've been here, is we've run summer camps for young people between the ages of 6 and 12. And we started to hear an outcry from the community saying, well, you know, my child was in your summer camp up until they were 12, and then you put them out on the street. There was nothing really for them, especially something that was affordable. So last year we ran a pilot program at Sam Naples Center. For the first time, we ran a program for young people 13 to 17 years old, a work readiness summer camp where we actually partnered with the WIB. We took young people on college tours. They went to Seton Hall. They went to Lincoln University. They went to Delaware State and Morgan State University. So they had an opportunity to really to run the gamut, to really get around not only throughout the state, but up and down the East Coast to really check out colleges and what's going on in different cities. It was phenomenally successful. So we're very excited about bringing that particular camp back this summer and hopefully even expanding it. And the expansion is always dependent upon the numbers of young people that we get registering for that particular camp. This year we will run a chess camp again this summer. I don't know if any of you got an opportunity to read papers. A couple weeks ago we actually had Maurice Ashley here, who is the only African American Grandmaster of chess, who will be working with the city of Trenton to develop the first Maurice Ashley chapter of chess in the world. And he will be working with us over the summer to make sure that we provide quality chess camps this summer. We will be bringing out, of course we always run our basketball camps and our basketball programs. This year we will again run basketball programs. We will be adding a component this year that we ran as a pilot last year, and it was very successful. We have a lot of young ladies that play basketball in this city, but we had to run a women's unlimited basketball program until last summer, and I think several of the council people came out and witnessed it for themselves at Cadwallader Park. We had phenomenal turnout for those games. The women's games were just as competitive as the men's games. So this year we will continue to run a 9 to 11-year-old boys and girls basketball camp, a middle school boys and girls basketball camp, a high school boys and girls basketball camp, and we've always run the men's unlimited. This year we will run a women's and men's unlimited basketball camp. So we're very excited about bringing that back. We're going to implement something else this summer that is a little new, not new in the sense of nobody's ever done it before, but it's going to be new the way we implement it this year. A new program called Cross Dribble. And Cross Dribble will allow us, at night, we have a lot of our parks that we have kids that are just in them, but there's not something that's really constructive for them to do. And so what we have our staff doing this year is they'll be going to different parks and picking up pickup games. So they're already starting to register young people who generally do pickup games in the summer. But we'd like to be able to bring them to other parks underneath our watchful eye, where we run basketball games and skills types of games. If you've ever watched the NBA All-Star game, you know that they run a skills competition, where it's a passing, layups, drills. We want to do that again this summer. We want to do it citywide. So we're going to be running a program this summer called Cross Dribble. The swimming programs, of course, this year we'll be opening up the pools on June 30th. And we will again run them right until after the first day, Labor Day, right the day of Labor Day. We will run our summer food service programs again this year. And for those of you who are very familiar with our summer food service programs for this city, we are actually the second largest summer food service program in the state. The first largest being the Newark program, and we do a phenomenal job. Last year we served nearly 4,000 young people a day in the city of Trenton and throughout the county, because we're not only the summer food service program for the city of Trenton, but we're also the summer food service program for the county. Didn't have an opportunity to mention this last year because I wasn't the one who presented to you last year, or was I? Maybe I was. But the previous year was the first time that the city of Trenton had actually won an award from the feds for the administering of our summer food service program. So they talked about the administration and how tight our administration of the summer food service program was. And if you ever venture down into the recreation department, the plaque is actually hanging on the wall in the lobby. It's the first time we've ever received that award, so I'm very proud of that award, because we've been running the summer food service program in the city, I believe, for at least 20 years. It's the first time we've ever actually won that particular award. This summer we'll also be doing some new iterations of programs that have already been out there. We will actually be running the Take It to the Streets programs again this year. The Take It to the Streets, we're going to focus on some different areas this year. For those of you who know Take It to the Streets, most people look at Take It to the Streets and say, oh, it's a wonderful program where you're bringing games and fun to the community. And yeah, the kids will have fun and there will be lots of games for the community. But what we really would like to utilize this for this summer is an opportunity to engage the community. It's really about getting people who live next door to each other, who otherwise don't talk to each other, to get to talk to each other. And so, our staff is actually out there right now working with them and talking to them about, what is it that you want to do? What do you want to cook this year? What would you like us to bring to your community this year? We have some set things, but if they say, hey, we want the Quake back again this year because the Quakes were on their game last year, we will definitely bring them back. But it's really about engaging the community and not just bringing things to the community, but about engaging them, about how we process with them and what we bring to them. So we will definitely be doing Take It to the Streets again this year. It's also an opportunity to informally help, some of my colleagues. Because I know that Andrew, when he goes out there, he is, the ear of the community. And I've watched them in action and people saying, look at this lot. What do you guys want to do about this lot? And so he uses that as an opportunity when we go to different places to say, hey, Lenny, we got some complaints about this. Or Eric, we got some complaints about this particular street. We need this to be cleared because we're going there this week and there's going to be 100 kids out there. And so, we really use that as an opportunity to informally do some things, but also bring the community together and try to help galvanize them into different areas. I must take this opportunity to say that the Houghton Avenue group, for the last 2 years, has been our top group with Take It to the Streets. Because that community engages, heavily. You get people, you walk up and down that street during Take It to the Street, and you have people cooking out in front of almost every house. They've cooked things from pheasant to raccoon. And trust me, I'll be out there and get my plate again this year. But they really do a phenomenal job. Not only have they done a phenomenal job of engaging us and connecting, but they take pride in their Take It to the Streets event. They have actually done a DVD of their Take It to the Streets event for the last 2 years and made sure that the city has had a copy of that DVD. And they've distributed it throughout their community. We want to challenge the rest of the community. And I'm all about challenge. We want to challenge the rest of the community to be that engaged with Take It to the Streets when we bring it to their communities this year. And this year we will be engaging, I believe it's 6 new Take It to the Streets. I'm not going to name them all because we will actually be going to 20 areas for Take It to the Streets this year, if I remember correctly. 21 Take It to the Streets areas. 20 summer concerts. Now this is also a new iteration of what we've already done in the past, but doing it differently. For those of you who have kind of passed that season of being 14 and 15 years old, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, and looking forward to things in the summer, you know that there's always a huge buildup when things come to your neighborhood, or when there's a special event in your neighborhood, and then there's this letdown if there's nothing else that comes behind it. Well, this year the iteration is that we will take it to the streets to the 21 different communities this year. But we will also bring a summer concert series, not on the tail end of Take It to the Streets, because Take It to the Streets is an event all on its own. We will bring a summer concert series at different times. So week 1, you'll get a Take It to the Streets. 2 weeks later, you'll get a summer concert series. And so what now you have is a community that's not being touched once, but they're being touched twice in a summer. And the mayor has been very adamant about this. He's wanted to see movies in our communities for years. So we will have, this summer, 26 separate movies going on in communities all over the city. Last year we did a phenomenal job of running the movies at Mill Hill Amphitheater, and it was awesome. The lowest attendance count that we had, we ran 3 of them. Lowest attendance count that we had was 125. The highest attendance count that we had was over 500 people coming out to the amphitheater to see movies. That was pretty phenomenal. And so we will run 26 movies in the same area that we're doing Take It to the Streets and summer concert series, and we run them at different times. So we will be very busy, and it will be hopping. One of the things that I've asked the staff to do is to really look at some things that we can bring in that will not cost us an arm and a leg, but will have major impact. So one of the things that we've looked at doing is doing a jazz at noon. So downtown, we will have some jazz. We'll have 4 jazz at noon, where we will be bringing people out of their workplaces and people who are just in the downtown area anyway to come on out and hear some good jazz at lunch. Okay, while they're having lunch. We'll also be running what we call Dancing Under the Stars. It's going
not with the stars.
Not with the stars. Dancing Under the Stars. But it's a good play on words if you think about it. So Dancing Under the Stars, we really would like, we're inviting some groups in that will be teaching dance with some big ballroom type of dancing, some salsa, some different types of dances that people can learn and they can watch. And so we'll do that. The Battle Monument, we'll do that in a couple of different places throughout this summer. So we're really excited about many of the different programs that will be out there. Of course, we'll run our summer camps, the jazz, and we'll also be utilizing the amphitheater this year. The amphitheater is a hidden jewel that we have in the city. And anybody who has not had an opportunity to go over to Mill Hill Park and sit in that amphitheater either at lunch when people just kind of, it's almost like being in a different world because you can't hear the street traffic, up top, but the water is running right by. It's just one of the most tranquil areas. I've been out there at 11 o'clock at night, and I've been out there during the day. And no matter which way you slice it, it's one of the most tranquil spots that you can be in the city of Trenton. Well, we'd like to utilize our amphitheater this year. So what we've done is we've actually implemented for Saturdays plays for youth in our amphitheater. So we actually have Genie's Lamp and Dreams that will be coming on Saturday the 7th. And I'm not going to start naming dates. But we've got some wonderful opportunities for puppeteers and people who act to actually come and do plays for our young people in the amphitheater. So we're just very excited about what's going to be going on this summer. There are a whole host of things that will be happening this summer. This summer will be packed and fully energized.
What's going on this one?
But I also forgot to mention that the Dancing Under the Stars will also be running a seniors version of dance because we also would like to do a line dance under the stars. So people have done, well, not just seniors, but the seniors really like that line dance. So we want to make sure that we have a special night that's particularly for them. It's there. Yeah.
So before you wrap up, if I can just ask you, if you give them a thought with regards to interjecting, I don't think members will ask this question. How are you getting this information out to the public? And what mediums are you doing?
We'll talk a little bit about Heritage Days this year. I can speak to this year because we haven't begun planning for this year. But this year, you've begun planning for this year, not for next year. Did you ask for this year and for next? Yeah. Yes, we've begun planning for this year, but not for next. So I can speak to this year. This year, Heritage Days, we're very excited. It's going to be phenomenal. We really started to engage the community again. We talked to the St. Patrick's Day Parade folks and the Ancient Order of Hibernians. They're coming back to Heritage Day this year. We are very, very pressed about trying to engage the community again and making sure that they think that Heritage Day is something that's theirs also. And so we're connecting back with them. We're looking at having a larger presence for young people. One thing that I noticed last year, being the father of a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old, my kids went with me, but there weren't events that were active events for them. Right. There were things for them to do. They got library cards made, they got some push pins made that we could hang on them, but there weren't things for them to do and be active. And so this year we've actively gone after things that are participatory for young people, so that the 4- and 5-year-olds can be there and have a good time along with their parents. One of the things that we know is if you bring a 4- and 5-year-old, now some people might, but the average person wouldn't, allow them to go to Heritage Day Festival by themselves, which means that we're going to get greater numbers because those parents who will bring their children will come. And so it's really about, it's dual-fold, making sure that we push the attendance, but we also have events that families can be excited about being part of. We've engaged a hot air balloon this year. So they will be coming, and it's a stationary hot air balloon. It just goes up, comes back down. But it's something the kids will be excited about. I mean, we have some adults that have never been in a hot air balloon. And so we talked to them about coming to the city and doing that. We have a trainless track for young people, a trackless train for young people, where they'll actually be able to get on the train and it just ride around the area. You know, where there's a train that little kids can get on and have fun. So we're really pushing that. We're also pushing not the teen stage, but the youth stage this year. We've had to change the configuration a little bit because if you've driven by on West State, you'll see that in front of the museum they're doing construction, and that will not be finished by the time we get to Heritage Day. But you know, we've been able to actually push Heritage Day down a little bit further, and so we're actually this year going to bring it down from in front of the museum, down instead of stopping in front of the State House, take it around the bend, down towards the War Memorial. So we're actually going to stretch it a little bit. We've already been in conversation with the State House. They've already given us their okay, so we're fine there. It's really about stretching it, and stretching the number of acts that we have. For that Friday evening, we actually have contracted Gerald Beasley, who will be coming in only for volunteers. So if you're interested in volunteering for Heritage Day and you're in the room, he will be performing and giving a concert for us, specifically for our volunteers and for our major sponsors on Friday evening. And then on Saturday, he will be the featured act along with Kirk Whalen. So we're very excited about the acts. The acts are absolutely incredible. They're as diverse as they've ever been. Again, this year, Heritage Days are going to be out the hook. It is the kickoff to the summer, and that's why we believe the Heritage Days is so important, because that is always that first weekend of June, and for us it's the official day of summer, because that's what kicks off our summer program.
Director, you're working with the respective civic associations in terms of the Take It to the Streets program and trying to engage the community and promotion and so forth.
Mr. Bobbitt has been meeting with several of them. He's in contact with them, but again, it's about going to them and engaging them about what they want to be involved with. The challenge for a lot of programs, I'll take a little bit of liberty in saying this, is, and it's not here, it's any program that doesn't work well, it's when you fail to engage people to help operate that program. In the communities where we've not historically had great turnout, or it's all child turnout, it's because we didn't engage that community either early enough or well enough to say, we need your participation, we need you to cook, we need you to be out there. And so Mr. Bobbitt has already started that process of really engaging the community now. We need them to understand that we need them to be part of the process. It's not something that we're coming to your community to do to you, it's something we're coming to your community to do with you.
I want to applaud you for the Verse nationally too. It was very inspiring, personally, and as we talk to the young people, not to mention this crowd with the church. So excellent job. It's exciting to have a chest check. That's great work. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Director.
Thanks, Costa. He's off the hook, man. Let's take this now.
Mr. Christie, thank you for looking ahead and understanding that the community has to absolutely engage in the process. And with that, I'd like to ask if you would consider forming a panel of sorts with children and young adults to assist you now and in the future to ensure that we absolutely have the needs and the desires of the community and the folks who are going to participate. As you speak to the food program, you would have some people say that having served over 4,000 in Mercer County is not good when you look at poverty and the impact that it has on children, particularly as it relates to lunches and summer programs. However, my comment is going to be that any time you reach and provide for a kid, by any means necessary, you help provide for their growth. And so I want to encourage you to continue to do that and to look into expanding the program as much as you can to include lunch and reading. That's how we get things done. And I just want to commend you for looking ahead, looking up and looking ahead.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And I would say to those people who might say that it's not enough that we serve 4,000 young people in this county, and most of them really are in our city, not throughout the county. We probably have about 10 agencies of the 82 that we served last year that were outside of the county. We're still the second largest summer food service program, and that's not because of number of the county, but it's really because of the number of meals that we serve. We're the second largest summer food service program in the state. I love that idea about connecting young people and adults to assist us in this. And one of the things that I've already started doing is meeting with civic associations, now if I can go and meet with one tonight, because the goal is that we engage people in their passion. Now, everybody doesn't have a passion to help work on Thanksgiving Day parade, but those who do, we want to engage them to do that. And so it's really about putting out there those things that we have available and that we would want them to engage in and connecting them to it. So I appreciate that because that was one of the things, top priority on our list.
And a priority for me as well, Mr. Frisbee, is that we reach that age group of 16 to 25.
Yes,
so as you look for volunteers, I would hope that they wouldn't all come from professional background and even include some of this age group in assisting in volunteering and having the opportunity to be involved with a great artist like
Mr. Moore, yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Frisbee, as I commended the department in the past for many great programs that you've put together for the youth and for people in general throughout our city, sounds like you have a great program in mind for this coming year. What I want to touch base on, you mentioned a lot about the summer camp program and things that you're adding to it this year. Last year, the summer camp program was extremely well. Many people applauded the program. But a lot of people had concerns, and I'm sure this year they'll be concerned again, and I'm going to ask you, what type of safety measures will be put in place, too, to be sure that parents feel secure that their children are safe when they're attending these programs or at camp through the city of Trenton?
We've been very connected with our police department. They know where we are, and the wonderful thing about the radio system that the city has invested in is that we have direct access to the police by switching a button. And so our site directors, because of the business administrator and the mayor saying that and the chief just saying this is something that has to be connected. When we did Scoop, we made sure that we made that available because Scoop isn't just for the school year and after school, but it's also summer. So it's making sure that we stay connected to our police through radio. But in the sites that we're in, they're lockdown sites, so you can't just walk onto the site. My kids and my nieces and nephews go to our summer camps. And so I can't just walk on site and pick one of them up because the doors are locked when you go.
Well, how about outside recreation?
Outside recreation, most of those areas that they're actually in are closed off. One of the sites is PJ Hill. As you know, that's a gated area. So where they go into their outside recreation, it's gated. Stokes Elementary is where we were last year. When you go behind Stokes Elementary, you have to do some driving. You're surrounded by 3 buildings. So we chose very carefully the buildings that we were going into to make sure that they weren't easily accessible by road, by an average person just kind of walking through. And the staff has been very aware. Last year we ran a week-long training program. First time we did it. We ran a week-long training program for everyone who's coming to work for us, because as you guys know, because you agreed to allow us to do it, is that we have a lot of seasonals that come to us in the summer. And so it's very important that they understand what the protocols are and what standard operating procedures are when you're working with our young people. We've not had any issues in that area.
Okay, now, will you be coming before us at a later time as far as the parks for the summer and, any upgrades to parks and giving us a whole presentation of where we stand on our park system? Or is it okay to ask questions at this time for that?
Okay, yes, I will.
You will be, okay. Because then also I do have concerns with the safety aspect in the parks. You know, each year we get calls from parents that try to bring their children to our parks, and unfortunately there's undesirables in the parks, and the children can't enjoy the parks as they should, more so during the summer months than in the winter months. And I know that you utilize park rangers. Is that something you'll be doing once again this year?
We will continue to use the park rangers. Remember, we have...
And when will they be
48
put
parks.
into our parks?
Some of them are actually already there.
Okay.
But we always bring on more park
we
rangers
increase.
in
When
the
will
summer.
we
We've already
increase?
put in the paperwork for that. So
Okay.
we're starting the process of pulling them out. But again, remember, there are 48 parks. We never had 48 rangers. So
They float.
They float, but they've done an incredible job at really identifying the parks that are challenging areas. You know, Captain Morris, who, you can ask any of the Trenton PD that have worked with him, is very hands-on. We had, homeless folks that were kind of living almost on the property of some people in Cadwallader Park. And he would work on things with the police where he was going to be out there at midnight to make sure that they caught who they needed to catch. And so it's that type of connection, making sure that he's very connected with the police department so that they can do their job. We're eyes and ears, their enforcement, they make sure it happens.
So you've already had your meetings prior to putting this all together with the police director or representative of the police department?
He meets with them regularly.
Very good.
So.
Very good. Okay, that's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Malone. Mr. Segura, yes, sir.
Mr. President, Director, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Frisbee,
Yes, sir.
seems like you're going to have a very exciting summer for everybody.
For those who use the service.
Amen.
For us, we're going to be walking around all the time hanging out our mouth.
It looks like it. Just in that last show, you said, that you upgrading just about every program and services this summer versus the previous summer or last year. Can you tell me, in what dimensions, they're going to be upgrade this year versus last year? Sure. When it comes to, just in a nutshell.
Again, I go back to the tipping point. It's just different iterations of what we've done. Last year, when you looked at our summer concert series and Take It to the Street, almost all of them were done inclusive of each other. So what happened was, you would have a Take It to the Street, and then at night, when the sun went down, we do the summer concert series, so community was only getting touched one time. The goal this year is that they will not be combined at any place, so communities will get touched 2 and 3 times this summer as opposed to only being touched once. They're just small iterations of making sure that we're engaged at that level.
Okay. The other thing is, since it's going to be so much greater, than last year, that means that I know that you have a number of jobs, every summer for summer job kids, especially to keep our kids, out of the streets. That means that also going to be upgrade. You're going to have more summer jobs this year than next year, since everything is going to be up.
Let me preface this by saying that actually comes through administration. So I don't want to speak to the number of jobs that will be available. But there are programs that we are working on, for instance, with the county, where there are some opportunities that are available. So we're very excited about those particular opportunities. And let me also say, when I talk about being upgraded, I do not want to imply that last summer was not good. It was a great summer. And we're not going to call it an upgrade, but it's a different iteration. Because just as I mentioned the book, The Tipping Point, it's the small iterations that have great impact. And so we believe that we're making some very small changes that will have incredible impact on the back end.
I understand, but I mean, the way that everything sounds, and I'm sure that you're going to try to execute everything that you are talking about.
We will execute.
So that means, you're going to need, more hands-on manpower, to actually execute them, consistent and to be able to elaborate them and include all these components that you're talking about, greater community, so on and so forth. So that means you're going to need. I mean, I know that you cannot, speak in behalf of the, administration that might make, these, but you have to make the assumption that yes, you're going to need more manpower to achieve these goals.
So part of it is, again, it's that different iteration. When you look at the thought process behind a Take It to the Streets, you have a lot of manpower on Take It to the Streets because it's needed, because you have our staff that are actually running the event. But on the summer concert series, which we've been kind of stacking on the back of the Take It to the Streets, the manpower is not as greatly needed because we're bringing in bands. Those bands bring themselves. The only thing that we have to do is make sure a stage is set up for them, and that we have staff that are connecting the community to that band. But the community basically comes out and sees it. So more manpower is not necessarily what we need for that particular event.
Yes. So that type of event, but then, take it to the street and stuff like that, you're going to handle more kids, then more, whatever, volunteer, whatever. It doesn't matter how, but you're going to need more manpower. So, yes?
I'm never going to fight more people.
But, okay. I'm not going to debate you on that, but I know that it has to be that way probably. Anyway, my last question. Okay. And, Mr. President, Paul and I, we visited a couple of churches, and these churches were of Haitians, Haitian community. We have about 5 or 6 churches, and they house close to, 1,000, in the facility. That means that they have a great, large community here that sometimes they're not taught in English or form. And this is when I talk about, bilingual. It doesn't necessarily have to be in Spanish, but they are also a big community, up north, that, the councilman is not here, but a lot of those people don't speak anything but, Polish, and those communities need to be reached out to them, and especially, the large majority of the Latinos throughout the whole entire area. What I like to see is that the same way that we put, these messages through our, water bills and all the other stuff that we send from City Hall, that the same information that you give me, like in a piece of paper like this, and the whole information is there for, for the summer camp, everything is there, for Take It to the Streets, that if we cannot, put it out, in their particular languages, then we can put it in there like that in each one of those, envelopes. And I'm sure that one of those people that speak English or whatever would diverse or give them the information to each one of those communities. So I like to see each one of those communities, be also included, because it will be nice, to see not just them participating in the program, but also have them, throughout, summer jobs, those kids over there, they go to school too, and they need to be included. So please, I appreciate it. If you can also, look out, they have a little newspaper too, Haitian community does, to the churches. So does the Polish community, so the Latino community, 3 or 4 components like that, and many other networks that they can, be reach out, in that manner. And if you can do that, sir, I volunteer.
I'll take you up on it. Yes, sir. Thank you.
It's really working council. They'll drive you, they'll volunteer, and take you home.
Mr. President, yes, I will.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Dayton, yes, ma'am.
Thank you, President. Just a couple of things, please. And with regards to the security in the park ranges and all the other precautions that you take, last year, did you have any incident?
No, ma'am.
That's what I thought. Now, how are the ID cards, how is that system working for you in tracking the children that go across town the program?
The ID card program has worked well. We've had some glitches, and we've had to have our computers recalibrated. They are now, and we'll be utilizing them That is a change that we will make this summer. We historically in this city we have not tracked people coming to our pools. Anybody can walk to our pools historically. So we will be asking people to register this year so that we can know who's coming to our pool. We don't know if they're coming from Ewing, coming from Hamilton. All we've ever asked them to do is sign in. So we know that a person came, but we don't know any background on them. So that will change this year.
And how easy is that registering process?
That process is very easy. They can go to any of our centers and register. We have 8 different places where they can register, and it's just simple, giving us your information, bringing some proof of who you are, us putting it into the computer, and printing you out an ID card, taking a picture and printing out an ID card.
And that's for all residents, young and old, who want to participate in city programs or at city facilities?
Yes, ma'am.
You may guess it, I know that your department employs the most youth during the summer. And so I just kind of wanted a little bit of a breakdown. I know a lot of them go to recreation, but you also find some kids who have an interest in natural resources and culture, is that correct? So all your kids go to recreation?
There are very few places they can actually go in natural resources, only because you have to be a certain age to operate some of the equipment. So we're able to link them sometimes, but most of the time, the majority of them are in recreation.
Will the Saturday programming continue this summer?
We continued it on a reduced level last year, and one of the things that we just found was that we were wearing kids out. I mean, throughout the week and on Saturdays, we made centers available to them. The numbers on Saturdays were nowhere near what they were during the school year. The kids think differently in the summer.
Yeah, you're right. I was glad to see that you had planned one senior activity. You had to do line dancing.
Dancing on the stars, just maybe.
Now, when you take it to the street, show the movie in the dark, and
Show movie in the dark, just show movie.
I didn't even the dark, the park, in the dark at the park, right? What do you have for seniors? Will these movies be for general audiences?
Yes, we're picking movies that across the board that families could watch. So we're not getting any Boys in the Hood. None of that stuff is coming to any of our theaters. We will have A Killer and the Bees and movies that really are thoughtful, fun, family oriented. But those are the types of movies that we want to have. We don't want to have the other stuff.
With adequate light.
With adequate lighting, enough so that people can still see the movie.
All right. I'm just teasing. For our residents, our young folks with special needs, do you still have the swim program?
Yes. The equipment that came along with that particular program, we own it. The city owns that equipment. We have 4 lifts. We've actually lent one of the lifts to the school district, which they house over at Dunn School.
Okay.
So those lifts belong to us, and we always attach them. Martin Luther King Pool is the one that we always have it attached, but we can always move it to any of the other pools.
I just want to ensure that Heritage Days will be up to hook. I'm working on that committee. We get a lot of good things to plan. I'm looking forward to that. Hot air balloon. It will be something to see folks who just want to go up and down on it. You think it's going to be a line on it? I got shit on it. But I guess it's certainly something different. That's the whole thing, to be able to offer new and exciting things to your children. This Heritage Day certainly will be just highlighting the city the best way it can. The concert that you talked about on Friday for the volunteers and the major sponsors, if folks wanted an opportunity to volunteer, what office should they call?
They should call our office, and they should call Maria Hernandez at 815, yourself, phone 2162.
And I know that if there's a real theme of community, city this year, or every year, but particularly being pushed this year, Is there also opportunity for civic associations to participate with their own informational group highlighting their communities?
Of course there is.
And who would they contact for that?
They would also, well, actually they can contact Jeannie Mae Davis.
Jeannie Davis, okay. And Jeannie's number?
Jeannie is at 989-3353. Thank you. The Duco is starting to work on it.
The camp fee is $200 per child.
Yes, ma'am.
Does it go down with additional?
10% for every additional child.
And there will certainly be some scholarships available for those families who are eligible.
We will be working that out, yes, ma'am.
Mr. Frisbee, as we have in the past, the Westport Advisory Board will be providing scholarships for Westport residents.
That's why I can say I know it.
We do it every year. Yeah, I'm working. Very good. Well, I have a thank you for staying and looking forward to a safe and fun-filled summer.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sure you're going to get that on that.
I'm on
Mr. President, I concur with everything my colleagues said. Just briefly on my part, with everything that you said, there's only two things that we often will hear a lot about. That's one, the baseball programs in the low league fields, and the fields not being water, or the too watery, or no lines on them, or whatever. That's up to you to look at it. And then the other thing is obviously, whenever the weather decides to break, full operation. That's very important. Will any of the pools be available for swimming at night?
We always have at least one of the pools that's available until 9 o'clock.
And in the event of a heat wave, will you be able to be a little flexible with your swim program and open some other pools?
No question about it. We had to do it 5 times last year,
Okay.
where we actually had to extend the hours of the pool program till 11 o'clock because it was just incredibly hot.
I anticipate it'll be hot, but we'll see. We'll see what it is. Last thing I want to say, are we doing May Day again this year?
Yes.
All right, let me ask you what would really make this summer off the hook for me is if you could incorporate May Day at least once a month in Calvert Park. I think you can get a use based on how you market it this year. The kids are obviously because we have some common folks like balloons and jumpers out there and vendors and so forth. If you can incorporate that, and I don't know what the cost would be, if it would be minimal at all, but it'd be nice to see that park utilized every Saturday, or one Saturday a month, or one Sunday a month, just with different types of programming such as that. Another thing I was going to ask, in terms of capacity, what's your capacity to handle all the, if you were busting at the seams, could you handle all the kids that are brought to the table this summer to participate in the program?
My staff are part of a magician crew, and they make it happen no matter how I ask them to make it happen. Last year, we've had to push our capacity. I think we served daily about 1,000 young children last summer, and we're hoping to be able to do the same thing again this year. Again, the registrations drive the number of staff we can bring on because we have a lot of seasonal staff will come on. And so the registration is what really drives that. Last year we had 600 young kids that were in our paid camps, which was able to translate into us being able to hire 7 new people for the season. So again, the numbers will drive it.
Okay, so there's a threshold that will I have any other questions for you, any other members of the council? If not, let me say thank you very much. Thank you for your time. We look forward to seeing you out there. But I mean, that's nothing new. We've seen you out there 20 times before. And wish you a happy, safe, and prosperous summer.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. There's a resolution. Change the agenda around a little bit. We have a resolution with regards to music. Greenwald, you want to come up front, please?
Yes, thank you, Council President and members of the
And
council.
you want to just come to the head of the meeting. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Still from the head.
Oh, I see. I regret the late notice on the presentation of this request. We had been prepared earlier for submission, however, the state had asked for some changes, so beg your indulgence in that regard. This is a request that authorized the mayor to seek up to $248,611 for the UEZ administrative budget. These funds go for salaries, fringe benefits, and operational expenses for staff to administer the Urban Enterprise Zone program, which you may know is 2.5 square miles within the city of Trenton. There are 650 businesses in the zone, of which 162 participate in the zone program.
Well, it's off right now. I got you. Like you said, just the resolution, just Ms. Carter just pointed out, it's off by $1. $248,000 and 612, and I guess at the bottom it's just 248 and 611. The official.
My number.
Yeah, this one is a number. That's important.
I give you $1.
We'll go for higher.
I give you $1. Let me open up any discussion. Mr. Cox, any questions, comments?
No.
Mr. T?
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'd like to request soon that we have a mini workshop on urban enterprise zone program. Since its inception, I see that it's established or served close to 720 businesses. Typically when we hear from folks, they talk about the city is crashing and burning, and I don't think that we do quite enough, to put forth the good things that we do. So we need to talk about this, and we need to talk about, Mr. President, if you will, a better way to service our businesses and how we can be of greater service through this program, particularly in areas that are experiencing difficulty. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Vaughn, any questions, comments?
No questions or comments.
Mr. Segura, yes, sir?
Not much, just an observation that I like to, a little bit more detailed knowledge, pass around so that we know exactly, because, we have an idea more or less, what the enterprise zones, lays, but however, though, what are, the benefits, that meant for the people that want to participate, and give that information to the people that want to be part of it, or how that, affect the different businesses already established or the one that's going to be established.
One of them is the 3% sales tax.
Oh, yeah.
To encourage economic
But
development.
that's something that they need to know too, because they might want to put up a business somewhere and they have no idea what really the UAZ can do for them.
The information, it is restricted.
Well, yeah.
Mr. Davis, yes, ma'am?
Mr. President, I don't have any questions, but I just need clarification on what that number should be. 248, because I know
611.
611.
So, I pick that $1 up.
Yes.
611.
Put it in the PP.
Right. Too much paper for a chest. All right, no questions, comments on it. Roll call, in response.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Malone. And second.
Second. Roll call, Mr. Buffet. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Garcia? Yes. Mr. Malone?
Yes.
Mr. Dorr?
Yes.
Ms. Davis? Yes. Ms. Allen?
Yes, ma'am. All right, before we move on, I've asked I think at our last meeting, I made mention with regards to candidates for the Trenton Parking Authority, and we're scheduled to have Mr.
Al Saron.
Mr. Cerrone, correct, thank you. Mr. Cerrone, obviously we didn't have a pen, but did we ever hear anything back with regards to that? Okay, the resumes of two of the folks that we did have an opportunity to interview should be on your desk in your packets if you haven't seen them. I made mention last week that we would need one of this at our next conference session. The information should be in your packets if you don't have them, but I believe one is the nomination of Ms. Tawanda Wilson by Mr. Jim Malone and the name of Mr. Harry Reyes that was moved by Mr.
Segura.
Manuel Segura.
Thank you.
Segura. Segura. All right, council's pleasure. This is for one available seat on the Trenton Parking Park.
Mr. President?
Ms. Davis, Ms. King, yes, ma'am.
Go ahead, Ms. Davis. How are you?
Thank you. I'm looking at everything. Yes, ma'am.
Keep your eyes on the ball. Were these advertised?
Well, yeah.
Okay, good. You know, we decided that we would advertise all of our, okay, very good. Thank you. That's my only question.
Any other questions or comments? The chair is looking for any motions. I don't want to make a motion.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion.
Well, Mr. Malone has to go. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Mr. Malone, yes, sir.
President, I make motion for Ms. Tawanda Wilson.
Is there a second to Mr. Malone's motion?
Second.
Second by Ms. Latif. Roll call.
Roll call, Mr. Thayer. Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Ms. Latif. Yes. Malone.
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
For
Abstain on it. Floor is open.
I guess the motion you have with Mr. Harry Reyes.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second. Roll call, Mr. Thayer. Mr. Thompson.
Abstain.
Ms. Latif. Yes. Malone.
Abstain.
Mr. Dillon.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And for the record, this is no reflection of either one of the candidates. They were very good candidates. I would like to believe that, except for the record, if some of you recall, Ms. Wilson did specify that she had interest in serving, whether it was the Parking Authority, the Trent Housing Authority. I believe she said that her passion was for serving for the Trenton. And I'm assuming that that passion and that desire that this council can and should and will find as a condition for her with regards to the position on the commission that we have tried. Okay, Mr. Carabello, if you can, Mr. Carter, prepare a resolution for the next public meeting, and communicate via correspondence to Mr. Reyes as well as Ms. Wilson. Encourage Ms. Wilson that we will be looking at other positions. Okay. Let's switch up a little bit. Let's do public comment. City manager, we move into discussion. Motion to go to public comment.
Second.
Anyone wishing to address council may do so at this time. This starts reminding you, right? And there's some people behind us. Anyone wishing to remind me, right, to address council? Mr. Blake, can we start with you? I'm sorry, yes, ma'am.
If I may, before you begin, would it be appropriate at this time, because you are going to have some discussion on RCA, to make a statement about what that discussion is going to be?
Yeah, we're going to do that preference in the discussion. Yeah, I'm going to do that. I was going to do that. We got ready to talk about it prior to this meeting to talk about it. Okay. Mr. Blakey, yes, ma'am. Please state your name and address for the record.
Jacqueline Blakey, 15 Bell Street, Trenton, New Jersey.
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, I want to ask you guys some of you to please speak up, because we can't always hear what you're saying, and I'm here to know what's going on and what you have to say. So I just ask that you please speak up so that we can hear what you're saying. My main reason today is to let you know that the Reading Senior Center has taken it upon themselves to help and be a part of and adopt schools, grade schools. And for Easter and for Valentine's Day, they adopted a different school, and they were able to give a gift to each one of those children in that school for Valentine's Day, plus 2 daycare centers, and for Easter they did another school. And I just think that they need to be commended, those seniors there. I mean, I'm one of them, but they just need to be commended on reaching out to the kids to show them that somebody cares.
Very good.
Thank you. Mr. Clark, yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the City Council. My name is Dion Clark. I live 323 Walnut Avenue, the East Ward, in Wilberforce. About a month ago, Councilman Costin had brought before council a proposal about making the yearly inspections instead of this 5 years. I don't know why you guys had a problem with voting yes on that, which each and every one of you at this table is a homeowner, and you know what the responsibilities of maintaining a home. So you guys know the day-to-day responsibilities, the upkeep, the roof start leaking, you gotta call the man in, the heating system go, you gotta call the man in. These slum landlords don't even do that. They're getting away with murder with this stuff. So I don't know why you guys will have to do any more research on that matter when each one of you sitting at this table are homeowners. What is it for you guys to think about? Or at that time when Councilman Costin brought that before council, only 2 said yes and 5 abstained.
I'm sorry, you started first, yeah. Was that it?
Yeah. On that matter, it was.
Well,
No, I was waiting for...
why don't you finish everything you say, that way we can...
Well, I'm going to go on and hammer on some more about the slum landlords, because I feel it's something that you guys need to address immediately. I brought before council on the rental advisory committee that we should have in the city of Trenton. I feel that the taxpayers in the community should have more of an input in this, instead of leaving that up to the Department of Inspection with Director Pucciati. I feel people in this room who lives around these slum landlords and are subjected to that, we know firsthand. Not to bring them into the office and I tell you what I expect from you, and that's the end of it. I feel that the people in here who are subjected to that day in, day out, night in, night out, should be part of that. That's why I keep bringing that before you guys about the rental advisory committee, and I brought the suggestions, which I feel is credible and good for us to have for advisory committee. It needs to be addressed. These slum landlords are at the root of the destruction of our city. And I'll challenge anybody to that, because they rent to the undesirables, they rent to the illegals. You don't know who's living in these houses, because they don't have them to fill out no questionnaires or do no background check on them. If you got my rent money every month, you move right on in. It's a major problem, Mr. President. You yourself said you're interested in buying property, and I know you're going to do the right thing. Okay, I know you're going to do the right thing. So you should be at the forefront of what I'm trying to get done by what you want to do. Because if you do what you say you're going to do, you're going to have to follow the rules. This is destroying our city, these slum landlords. And it's only a group of them. They got a large bankroll. They did it in Brooklyn, New York. They did it in Camden. They did it in Baltimore. I got some literature. They're doing it out there in Ohio. They sure are doing it up there in New York City. And Trenton is small compared to those major cities. And before we know it, these half a dozen people who are not even Trentonians are going to come in here and own this city. And it's just setting this city up in the long run for eminent domain. But I'll get to that when the time comes, when Director Pucciati with administration bring what they're going to do and their changes and their commitments to the code. Because the code book should be thrown away and rewritten. It's a substandard code. That's why these landlords get away with what they get away with, because the code said, you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that. That's good enough for them to live in. So I'm saying it again and again, Councilman. Mr. President, let's do the right things. let's do the right thing. We need that rental advisory committee, and you guys as homeowners, and know what y'all go through to maintain your properties, should be leading the charge. Thank you, sir.
Let me just make sure, before I turn this to Chief, you were talking about, with regards to Mr. Cox's proposal for a yearly versus a 5-year inspection report?
Yeah. Right now it's 5 years. It should be a year when he
I think
proposed.
Mr. Chief wanted to respond to that. The other thing was, you're asking us to implement a rental advisory.
Which I brought before you.
Brought
Yes.
before us. And then the other thing that she was asking us to change and update the codes.
Well, the code book should be thrown out. We need a new code book, but that's going to take time to do.
Okay, I was going to say, you recognize the codes are set by the state.
No, I didn't.
Okay, yeah, that's by the state.
Well, what input do you guys have in that? Nothing?
I mean, other than saying that we have an issue, we want to call it to their attention, and then they change, that's administrative stuff.
So I should take my complaint down to the State House?
No, that's not what I said. You asked what input do we have. I said we can suggest that we don't want clocks in houses or something like that, and tell them to write that into the code. But then there's a process in which administrative codes are heard, reviewed, and or adopted. And it's way longer than it takes for us to put it together and to pass it at this stage.
So it's just really a lost cause then, Mr. President?
Please don't take that.
Okay.
No.
It's really a lost cause.
No, it's
Mr.
not.
President.
No.
Mr. President, if I may, Mr. Clark actually raises some very good issues, but they're issues that have been raised since I've been on council. And here's what I know for sure. Number one is, when it comes to state code, you got to become familiar with that. So it's good that people like you, Blakely, and Tricia come to council on a regular basis, because although you may not agree with everything, you are getting to understand some things. And you understand that it's the local legislative body. Some of these things are sometimes set by the state, and we don't always agree. I mean, you see it all the time with ABC issues, as it relates to maintaining areas around the home. Now, let me say this. I believe emphatically that LLCs need to be examined, because a lot of these property owners are LLCs, all right? And I don't want to pick on LLCs, but since they own a lot of the bulk of it, is something that we need to examine. And that's something that the chief and I've had some conversation about, and when they come before us with a package, they know that that package has to be tight. And you ask the question about why we didn't just accept the proposal. That seems easy on the face of it, but it requires a change in the budget. And that's not so easy.
Okay.
That requires money. When you talk about changing things on face value, you know it's important, we recognize that. But when we prepare to do that, after we find out what's going to happen with the city and the administration who are responsible for doing this, then we'll have some input as to where we can go in terms of the budget, if we want to change the budget. Changing the budget requires an increase in money. Where's that money going to come from? So these are all things we have to examine. We come to this table a lot with things that make good sense. And we support you as residents of Trenton and homeowners, but as people who want to live in decent neighborhoods, whether we're owning or renting, we support it. But supporting these things require money, and that's where it behooves you to continue to bring your concerns to council, and to understand that just because it sounds good doesn't mean it is good, and it doesn't mean it can happen overnight. That may be something we need to examine for next year's budget, and to figure out how we can fit those extra inspectors in, because you're certainly going to need them. You know, those are issues we have to examine, and that doesn't happen automatically. I wish it did. I wish I had a wand and I could fix it all. But I don't. And the reality of a legislative body is when we examine the budget and we talk about making changes, we have to understand the impact on that budget. See, we all got good ideas. All of us. Gino can tell you about some of the things that he brought when I first came on council, about housing. You look back and examine some of the things I spoke to with respect to Board of Housing. Every person sitting on this council. I mean, because folks are here. When Didi came, Didi and I had some conversation about, rocking the same baby. This baby's been here forever. And it's not as simple as it seems, and I really want you to understand that, because it's a big issue for you. It's the baby you're rocking. You've been rocking this baby for a minute, but you need to understand what it takes to feed this baby. Okay? And so we're going to examine some of that when we come before you shortly. They're going to be setting a date. But see, he's going to be coming back here and ultimately asking for some more money. And then we're going to see where Jackie's going to be on that issue. Okay? See, I'm telling you, it's not that simple. It's not that we don't want to. It's just that everything that looks good and sounds good, number one, won't happen overnight. And number one, it's not always as simple as it seems. Good ideas, the road to some place is paved with good intentions. But good intentions aren't always what makes it happen. It requires a lot of homework and understanding of the budget and the impact.
Well, those who live over on Walnut Avenue who has endured this will have to just continue to endure this.
No, I think that, Mr. Clark, to answer your question with that too, is you need to understand that this didn't happen overnight. See, most people sitting in this room will want to believe that this stuff happened under the Palmer administration.
No.
Or it happened, hear me out, or it happened when Gino got on council. These properties being abandoned and going through changes and changing hands, this has been happening for years. How we get a handle on it is the biggest issue. I asked the chief and the legal counsel one time to just stop these folks from buying houses. Well, legally you can't. But I was just as emotional as you were and concerned that my mother-in-law lives over here. You understand? I mean, you're not by yourself. This is an issue that impacts many parts of the city. And that brings me to, Mr. President, where you're going to go when you get with these RCAs. Well, see, y'all going to get a lesson in here over the next couple of months. A good one. And one that you're going to be able to work with. Okay?
Well, you remember what I said last week at Council Thursday about the project going on East State Street. I'm totally against that, because that's not going to bring no prosperity to the Willard section. We need what's going on Pennington Avenue in your neighborhood. A market, some retail stores.
And you know
That's
what
going to bring.
That will require whoever represents your ward sitting down with the administration and making a plan. I made one. Okay. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Councilwoman T. Thank you.
I asked this last week. The forthcoming ordinances or amended ordinances regarding inspections, we see those on the 17th or May 1st?
Pardon me?
The ordinances are coming up for inspection.
No, I think what was being brought to our attention was a report on the inspection department.
Oh, I see.
And then based on that report, dictate whether or not there was changes that needed to be made specifically. The council has the option to implement things, but I think you have to bear in mind the cost. Which, just give me one second, Jim. I think that goes to your first question with regards to why not an annual inspection versus a 5-year inspection. And I think it's simply 5 years because, or maybe 3 years, but that's all inspectors will be doing. That's all they will be doing is inspecting. So when you got ready to buy your new house in the West Ward or the North Ward or whatever, and you trying to get an inspector to come by and do a CO, all he or she will be doing is inspecting abandoned houses. And we'll have to tell you, we got to get back to you in 5 years. So I think it's a time-consuming process. And when you don't have an army or a large inspection force, or whether or not you ever have enough personnel specifically to conduct that job, it becomes an issue. And so I think that's why it's kind of spread out. And I think the other thing is, like you said, on a lot of laws, and maybe Mr. Robert, if you agree with this, the municipality just kind of mirrors the state law to some extent, with maybe some modifications here or there. So we're not making this up, because some of the stuff we can change at a drop of a dime without even being threatened with lawsuits or what have you. We'll be getting them in. It goes back to police and fire living in the city of Trenton, giving maximum sentences to thugs. So, if we had those authorities, that's why we say, it doesn't lie here. It can start here, but it certainly doesn't end here. It certainly doesn't end here. It can end here, it can end up down the end of the State Street, or certainly in D.C. We got to go back to Chicago.
Perhaps inspecting properties Once a year is too expensive for the city, but I'm fairly certain that especially once every 5 years, it's too expensive for our quality of life residents. But I do look forward with much anticipation to the ordinances that will be in the near future regarding pension structure.
Anyone else wishing to address? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Nicholas Stewart. I live at 679 Lamberton Street.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. So I have comments. Excuse me?
Good evening.
Good evening. I've got a couple comments regarding Director Frisbee's presentation tonight. Just want to comment on the fact that it's very obvious that Trenton is subsidizing quite a bit of the cost for this particular program, which does sound exciting, enjoyable, and I think it's worthwhile for these the youth Trenton. However, you mentioned a specific program for the 13 to 17-year-olds that was a little bit more geared to visiting colleges and a little bit more education-based. I think that it would be important for council to kind of work with Director Frisbee, as well as that engagement of the rest of the city, trying to put together programs for the very small children of the city that are coming to the program, to get them involved in the same types of thing. Councilor Pete said something about lunchtime with reading. Well, how about a program where, that's all the children did, was read. They can continue their education. It can be fun. I think that it wouldn't be as necessarily expensive due to maybe the reduced cost of insuring the programs. A lot of physical activity, I'm sure there's some insurance costs. I think it would be something very beneficial to help the city, especially the youth. In this current atmosphere of our city, it's not looking too bright. I know there's a lot of things in the newspaper about gang activity. And I'd like to connect the two by saying that by reaching out to the younger kids now and instilling maybe a little bit more of a positive experience in their childhoods, that they have something to look forward to later and can continue into the school year, and maybe just raise the median standard of living in the city as a whole up, significantly by preparing these children for the future in the working world. It's not that far away. I remember being 7 years old and running around Lamberton Street, and now I'm 26 and I'm standing before you, asking for better programs for the kids to just. And I remember being a kid. I can say I'm not a basketball player, and I think just continuing education is really the key. So with the amount of money that the city's putting into these children, I think some of it would be very beneficial to further their education and provide some skills, not necessarily a job skill, but just how to study skills to get them into college. All right? Thank you for the time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else to my right? Yes, ma'am.
Patricia Stewart, 679 Lamberton Street, Trenton. A couple of things. By the way, Mr. Segura, with all due respect, I think we can carry this bilingualism to a point where it becomes self-defeating. At what point do we stop? There's a large Pakistani population here in Trenton. Are we going to have things in Urdu? As far as the Haitian population, do we do it in French or we do it in patois? My feeling is, suck it up, learn English. Okay. Now that I've offended you all. Sunday, April 8th. Metropolitan Section, New York Times.
Oh, Miss Stewart.
Oh, by the way, I digress for a moment. Councilwoman Lartigue is correct about the housing problem. I remember my husband talking to the late Arthur Holland about it. And Arthur Holland assured him that he had a handle on it. Arthur Holland is dead and gone, and we still have the housing problem. Okay, after 9 killings in 3 months, first page of the Metro section of the New York Times. Absolutely nothing about the girls' basketball team, although I'm not a big fan of athletics. Nothing about the chess team. No, about the murders here in Trenton. This is not the publicity that we need. This paper, by the way, goes around the country. This is a paper of record. And as far as people being afraid, this young man who was shot over on the, most recently, everybody's afraid to talk to the police. And this is one of Nicholas's ideas. Maybe it's time for the mayor or Director Santiago to show up with a bullhorn and get out and say, hey, this is your mayor talking. We can't help you unless you help us. If you have information, give it to us. If you're so afraid, come to City Hall. We'll talk to you there. The other thing is people have to realize that these morons who commit these crimes are basically cowards. And I know, I used to get paid to deal with them. And the minute they saw a badge and a gun and handcuffs, they caved. And people are going to be afraid of them? Something that has to stop. So, and what Nicholas said about education, I've said this for a long time. The whole philosophy has to change. Every kid going into kindergarten, we're assuming, is going to Harvard on a scholarship. And we have to get that mentality going. We have to get rid of this Oreo mentality. I don't know who started it. It has to stop. And then we'll be able to see our young people moving up in the world. As I'd love to remind you, Mr. President, you weren't up there on Edgerton Road. I'm sure if you came home and told your parents, oh, I'm not studying, I'm no Oreo, your father would have hit the ceiling and your mother the floor at the same time. You were there with one purpose in mind, getting into college. And this philosophy has to be inculcated into our kids. The sooner the better. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Before the next individual, let me take this opportunity once to just welcome him. He comes here pretty frequently during the year, whether it's for girls events or civic matters. But it's my pleasure to introduce to some, present to others, introduce to some, present to others, Mr. Joe Smith. Joe's probably Trenton's #1 fan, in regards to girls basketball, football. Well, he's the sixth man on the girls basketball team. And I'm sure if you had an opportunity to punch Don Imus in the nose, you would have did that gladly. But we appreciate the efforts. We've often talked about you, and I'm mistaken. I can say whether it's good or bad, we just talked about you. But it's always a pleasure to have you here. So please state your name and address for the record.
23 Boat Street, Trenton, New Jersey. I'm here only on behalf of Mr. City Council and all the other adults here. Just want to say thank you. Thank you because 6 years ago when I stood before you, those same young ladies that just won the tournament, won the state championship and went to the tournament champions, and the girls that's over at Trenton Catholic, when we had them in over there in council's meeting before, they were all young ladies at an age of between 12 at that point and they're 17 now. So all the help that you really put forth by opening the doors for these young ladies to be able to have some place to practice, all the hard work pays off. And just this past weekend, I took most of the girls up to Baltimore, and they just won the Charm City Shootout up there this past weekend. I got a telephone call on my way back home that those girls, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, or 16-year-olds, just qualified to represent New Jersey in the national championship, which will be held in Orlando, Florida. Some of these young ladies never got a chance to go anywhere. Now they have the opportunity just to go down there and play some basketball and spend 4 days in Disney. Some of us, as adults, never got a chance to even go to Disney. You know, these young ladies have seen the world from Rochester, Minnesota, to Mall of America, and I just want to say thank you, because Dan Stokes knows Story Child's probably better than I do right now. From that girl to be able to couldn't walk and chew bubble gum and walk at the same time, just before we came here today, she had 17 college recruits call her on her cell phone just because that city council and the city of Trenton opened their arms to these young ladies when they were 12 years old. So I understand what you're saying about the education. I understand what you're saying about the crime. I understand about the gangs. And there's programs. Let's not get it twisted. There are programs that are going on in the city of Trenton. You've got to be able to want to step in there and want to be a part of. Now, we can make all the excuses why things are not going well. We can make those excuses. But when you have the weed and seed, when you have the school program, when you have the Century 24, when you have programs in place, but nobody wants to talk about them, but they're there. So it's part of the parents that have to be able to have the literature to take your kids. Tracy Parson have never had a B on her report card. We come home at 4 o'clock in the morning from a basketball game. I go to work. I see Tracy Parson sitting in the classroom. So what I'm saying to each and every one, that when you see these young ladies, not on the court, off the court, ask them how they're doing in their classroom. Ask them, and then it shows that, believe me, they know your face just as well as you know them. Just ask them, and you'll see the joy that they get. Leola Spotwood, she won the MVP from Tournament Champions. She won the MVP for the Group 4 State Championship. There's so many people that are at our young ladies that are doing great and positive things. Centella Spotwood. I can name without Chantel Lavender. She left and she's at Pennington. These are some great kids that we have. So I'm asking each and every one to continue to support these young ladies. Because not only financially, just emotionally, take them under your wing. Like Mr. Frisbee was saying, I'm going to get some of these young ladies to come back and to be able to volunteer their service, because they're going to need them. I'm thinking college. They're going to need us on their resume. So now it's time for them to be able to put back to their own community when they put them on their resumes to go to college. Because guess what? When that day of signing, you can guarantee you that those same young ladies I started with, every single one of them will be signing to go to college. And I tell everybody, it's not about Division I, it's not about Division II, it's not about Division III. As far as I'm concerned, it's about a degree. I don't care where you get it from. Those are the things that I instill in these young ladies from the time that we started the program to where we are right now. This is their last year, that group I started out with, this is their last year that they'll be able to play AAU basketball. They see the number 3 team in the state, who's 16 years old. And let me tell you something, there's nobody in the state right now who wants to see these young ladies on the floor, because they are all have matured, not only as young ladies, great ball players. So continue to encourage these young ladies, and even, I don't want to go through the hoopla of asking for finances, but whatever the city's been doing, I'm asking you and I'm praying to continue, because our program has gone from one team till we got them from 13 to 17. So that's how well that the program is opening. When we started at Junior 2, Mr. Frisbee had the program over there. He opened the door and he said, what do you need? I need a place to practice. And the end results came up this past season. Now these young ladies are doing what they needed to do. And I have to piggyback on this young man here, because I know he makes sure that the SAT prep courses goes on. I check with Terrence every now and then. He said this one didn't show up. All right, well, we need to get him there, because it's all about being educated and being productive young ladies in the city of Trenton. So if anybody wants my number, you can contact us. Any kid that walk in the door, part of my program. We don't turn our back on anyone. I wouldn't care if the kid couldn't even dribble right now, because Tori Childs, when she first walked in the gym, she did a rebound like this. And now she gets it like this and steps. So, I mean, it's about teaching them. So if anyone wants my number, I'll open my doors to any kid that come in. My telephone number is 609-496-4565. And the email address is real simple. It's Capital City Girls. You can imagine why we named Capital City, right? Capital City Girls at yahoo.com. So, Mr. President, board, we want to go to Orlando this year, and the average cost for each kid, if we break it down, was like $175 per kid. That covers their hotel fee and everything. And every kid is not always, as I say, parents are not fortunate enough to be able to send their kid to Orlando. But we do enough, try to do enough fundraising and tagging and sending out letters, because some of these kids, as far as they've probably been across Marsville Bridge. I took a young lady to Rochester, and she stood in there and watched the roller coaster go around the Mall of America. How many adults seen the Mall of America? Anybody been there? Well, we got a few. Look at there. Those kids sat there and said, wow. So your finances at that point and your time that you opened doors for those girls, you did a great thing. And I wanted to commend you and keep us in prayer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. You're humble.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's easy to see that you're
Excuse me. And we are 501c3. We are tax exempt. So I made sure that we got tax exempt. Hey, guess what? And believe it or not, everybody who donated, we make sure that we keep a log of everybody. Even if you did, we can make sure that we get you the numbers back to you to where you can write on your taxes. So we do that. Take that.
I lost count. We'll start new day. I think we have two questions. This is Gore followed by Mr. Costa.
No, I just wanted to thank you, my brother, for, I mean, just walk in here, man, anytime you want. We need to hear more positive things like that, not just, so many, bad things and stuff, City Trenton present also good venue. So come again, my man, and thank you for your dedication, because it takes somebody like you to make it that big.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Costa, yes, sir.
Mr. President, you and I had talked a couple of cases back in that charity basketball game. So
you don't want me to do that.
I think we might have a reception for this.
You and your public challenges on the court. We'll talk about that.
I thought this way we could play on the same team. Fair enough.
Before I move around, let me take the opportunity to welcome Ms. Eva Levine back from Times. I'm saying you're out of the country in Peru. And welcome back. Hope you had a good time, and you look like you had a good time. We're glad you had a safe trip, and welcome back. And the cohort, Tiger L.A. Parker.
Excuse.
The gentleman who teaches Cowwater Park, coach up for a golf course. As always, LA, we appreciate your support. Anyone else to my left? I'm on your left, we should be here this time. So, I'm sorry. And I have some individuals in the back. Anyone behind me? Who just passed it? Okay. We'll talk about that. Yes, sir. Mr. Brookett. Please state your name and address for the record.
Al Brookett, 104 Cornwall Avenue, Trenton. I'd like to switch gears about something that I normally don't talk about, but it's something that's come up recently. I know that the mayor has been an advocate of having the phone service in the city updated to fiber optics. Most recently, in my area of the West Ward, we've had some horrendous problems with our landlines. I've been without a phone for over 2 weeks at this point. I know Kensington Avenue, Cornwall Avenue has been very bad. Beechwood Avenue has had problems. Passaic Avenue has had problems. And speaking with a technician today, trying to get some of the copper wiring replaced is not going to happen because there is a movement toward getting fiber optics installed in the city. But, every time the wind blows, we lose our phone service at our home. And I would urge council and the administration to pressure the board of public utilities to get on the stick as far as updating the telephone service here in the city, because it is a problem. The particular technician that I spoke to today had been working on Kensington Avenue for 10 days by himself. So this is an issue that I think affects all citizens in the city. And I did want to bring this before council this evening. With a second issue that I would like to address, and I know Councilwoman Ortigas heard me complain about this before, but summer is coming, And Six Flags Great Adventure is one of the largest employers of young people in this area. 2 years ago, New Jersey Transit stopped bus service from Trenton to Great Adventure, which I thought was a horrifically discriminatory thing to do. I would like to bring this issue up again because city youth, especially the youth in the city of Trenton, need those jobs. And I know that they are still hiring at Great Adventure, and a lot of our young people do not have the means to get there. I know my 4 sons all work there. My last son is working there this summer. And they took that bus 2 years ago. And I had to schlep them back and forth at odd hours during the week and pick them up late at night just in order to get them there. And I know a lot of kids don't have the ability to have a parent take them back and forth to a job like that. And those kids at that park get paid higher than minimum wage. The starting salary for most of them is $8.50 an hour. My son will be making $9.25 as a security guard. That will go up when he's 18. So I think that what's happened here is that the city youth has been cut off from a major opportunity to have summer jobs. So.
Thank you. Ms. Dayton?
In response to concerns regarding, in regards to Donald's concerns regarding transportation, Great Adventure has an agreement with the Board of Education as well as the Trenton to employ youth, and both the city of Trenton and the school district provide for transportation for our student workers back and forth to their school.
When did that start?
The district's been doing it for the last 3 years. And then,
Yeah, there are about 30 young people from the city of Trenton that are employed through the professional internship program.
Oh, it's through the internship program.
But they're paid internship program.
Okay.
And they provide the transportation.
Okay, so that's not provided through New Jersey Transit?
No.
No.
Okay. All right, so if they have to go, do they have to be, members, I mean, do they have to go to the Trenton school? They have to go to the Trenton school. And then what about kids that are going to private schools? See, I mean, they're excluded from that, and that should not be. And there are also young people who are 18 who are out of the school system who look for those summer jobs as well. So, you know, before that, it was public transportation. Now there's none. So the program that's in place now is still limited. And I don't think that's capturing all of the city youth that could be employed at Great Adventure. But thank you for that information.
I'd also, Mr. President, like to add that Mercer County Youth is also working on that. Mercer County Youth, the one-stop, I believe it is working on, and maybe the one-stop county is working on getting the buses to get them back and forth.
Well, will that be available, do we think, for this summer?
Hopefully,
I mean, the park
yes.
is already open.
It's something that they should work on.
It's
Let me
already
just tell you
open.
this. One of the reasons that New Jersey Transportation stopped transporting people, number one, the ridership wasn't large enough for them, and number two, when it was, they were fighting. So,
You mean there were problems on the bus?
there were big problems.
Yeah, I know that because my son's witnessed some of that. But,
Big problems.
Okay.
So we're working on it. The county's working on it. Councilman Staley, so is the board and the city.
Thank you, Mr. Roche. Seeing no hands, motion noted for public comment.
Motion. Second.
I just want to go on and move into a discussion with regards to, pardon? We're going to move into, we'll do something matters afterwards. We're going to move into a discussion with regards to RCA's per council request. This is dated back to February. January through January, February. The discussion centered around a state bill that would eliminate RCAs. Let me put in real short perspective with regard to RCAs. RCAs are termed regional contribution agreements. Those agreements, that is a result, should I say, of the Mount Laurel decision before the Supreme Court in the 70s, which allowed Mount Laurel Township to give away a portion, should I say, for lack of a better word, of their commitment to affordable housing. Ergo disclosing RCAs in about and suburban municipalities and or rural municipalities under law or under Supreme Court doctrine, I guess, were allowed to give their portion of affordable housing away. Ergo, fast forward to 2007, from historical perspective, at least from my standpoint, since 1994, and certainly since 1990, RCAs have been utilized by this administration, as well as other tools, tools for financing have been utilized by this administration with regards to helping to rehab, to develop blighted areas. I think we've used it to the neighborhood stabilization project. It's all income eligible, income grants. If you have a certain income level, obviously, to utilize them. And the question is, have they been good for Trenton? I guess that's the question. It's an issue that we've debated and talked about. How many times, Mr. Malone? At least 4. It'll probably be a future issue and probably was a past issue with regards to that. So, as I stated, the state legislature is now looking in committee at a bill that would eliminate the use of RCAs and replace it hopefully with a new program that will hopefully subsidize some portion of affordable housing, subsidize money across the board for all municipalities to have their fair share of affordable housing. So that brings us to the discussion as to this body was presented with in terms of any recommendations to the state legislature with regards to the committee bill by Assembly Speaker Joseph Roberts during this issue. This is, again, a workshop. We invited public comment. What I will do is open up to, well, this is a workshop meeting. It's a workshop. What I'll do, I'll open up comments to the council members, and then members of the public who would like to be briefed for a minute or two with regards to any comments you may have. We'll go from there. Mr. T.B.
Mr. President, I simply wanted to remind you, as somebody who has worked with Mr. Cosby with respect to this forum, this is the forum where we're supposed to set the agenda for a workshop, for public comment. And with that in mind, I'd like to ask that we, if I may, that before we move any further, recognize that there are some things in the works that are going to have a tremendous impact on RCAs and the distribution of them throughout the state of New Jersey for the 20 or so municipalities that really do affordable housing and use RCAs. Out of the 560.
There's more than that. Just I think
some change. Now it's about 2021. It's not much more municipalities that participate in building affordable housing to a large degree. So with that, I'd like us to recognize tonight, if we can, for the record, that reform is necessary and must happen. And that, we recognize that and we agree that there is a need for affordable housing. We disagree on how that happens to some degree. I think this body, am I right? We disagree to some degree on how that happens. And so then the discussion would be, Mr. President, that we prepare for what it is we'd like to know. And with that in mind, because it's my turn, we need to understand what poverty is, what affordable housing is, and I'm requesting the following information. Prior to I'd like to have a housing needs survey. Mr. Cavanaugh can work with the administration to ensure that we get a survey as it relates to Trenton. Again.
To be specific,
survey
I don't
was-
want to act like I don't know what you're talking about.
Just the housing needs survey. What is the need for housing in the city?
Okay.
All right? And then you're going to find out how many homeless people there are who live here and were born and raised here. I'm not going to deal with that yet. And then we need to talk about and have some understanding of the average income in the city. Okay? Now, keeping in mind that we agree that how RCAs are done must change. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, we absolutely have an agreement on that. It must change. It must change. There's absolutely no doubt. When you look at infrastructure, when you look at needs, and when you look at survey, it has to change. So we're there. I like to have the statistics regarding home ownership numbers for market rate, moderate, and affordable housing, and the locations of it. Now, Mr. President, when we look at our market, our survey for Trenton, our housing needs survey, many things are going to come out of that. Poverty, unemployment, underemployment, poor schools, let's see what else. There's so much more. Teenage pregnancy, single parent households, and homelessness.
Sort of safety.
Okay? Those are the critical things as they relate to housing. Okay? So I'm just asking that before we move forward and do our, our forum and bring folks in to speak to us who have some degree, and some to a large degree, knowledge about housing, I'm going to ask that administration participate in this provide the affordable housing, and that some of the folks Mr. Kosky has reached out to him or have reached out to him, have some conversations. But it must be, it cannot be a parochial discussion. It has to be doable. And that's all I'm asking tonight. And by that I mean, I don't want to simply look at the fact that there are poor people in this city. There are poor people everywhere. There are many people in need of affordable housing who aren't poor, who are working poor, or lack of. And that's called underemployment. And then, when you look at poverty, and you spread that out, there are a host of issues. So this is not, most people want this, a lot of people would say, get rid of it immediately, do away with it. And for all the people, and I'm not being derogatory, I'm simply making a point, who came to Trenton and had housing, it's easy for them to say that. But for the people who are born and raised here, who are unemployed and underemployed, we have to do something about it. And when we look at all of this, we also have to look at what's happening with our black males and Latinos and all immigrants who are in the city. This is nothing but, for lack of a better, definition. So I'm simply asking that we set an agenda and understand where we are, where we're going, and where we're going to need to be realistically as it relates to the people who live in this city. That's all I'm asking. I don't want to, what I'm not looking for, Mr. President, is, and because we've done this before, we're just going to get some additional information for those of us who've been around for a minute. And it's always good to get additional information. Once we understand, we agree that reform has to happen. And once we understand why we do affordable housing, then maybe we can come to a real agreement as a legislative body about how we do affordable housing. And take the lead with some of our other legislators, and including the mayor. He's the mayor. He's elected to run the city. He's the mayor. And so he has to be included in this process. If somebody else was the mayor, God forbid, I would say the same thing. I don't care who it is. If we're going to have a real discussion, I want a real discussion. And I don't think anybody disagrees with that. And so, Mr. President, tonight, I'm asking that we move forward in setting an agenda. And the first part of it is getting that information between the administration and Mr. Caravelli, and then figuring out what it is we want. So it's difficult to move forward and ignore numbers. It's difficult to move forward and ignore reality. And the reality is, some of us are going to be long gone, and affordable housing is still going to be a need for it. How it's done is going to continue to be an issue as well. But I think we should take the lead and show some true leadership and partnership and moving forward to discuss this issue with the people who are actually going to make the decisions about it. Okay? And that would include the state and COA and some of the other people who are going to be making laws and creating policy that's going to impact them. See, so often, Mr. Clark, we think about what we want to do and we talk about it and we want to make change, when in reality, unless we do the whole thing, we just spin in our wheels and sounding good. Okay? So, Mr. President, is that all right with you?
Well,
As you said, the agenda, actually,
yeah, others around the table, let's hear what they say.
yeah.
Yeah, others around the table, let's hear what they say.
Okay.
Mr. Shore, yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. President, I like just about everything that the councilwoman said. However, I also like to incorporate, and also that we be very vigilant in what, the state house is doing. Okay, how these reforms, going to come about when they come, to be laws and legislation. So I mean, I agree 100% with the reform. It has to be, because that's the only way that we're going to bring, our city apart to other things, that other cities actually that don't do that have, like the education of people, safety net, so on and so forth. It's like, I said. And however, Mr. President, I also like to somehow, somewhere, by the time we're going to do these presentations, it's like Councilman Faston, came out with some type of information, that this information also comes from, it doesn't matter if the bill is just about to be done or not, but to get the general idea and what are they preparing to present to us, to the municipality, in terms of replacing what we have now in place versus what they're going to bring to the table. That's my proposal.
Anyone else? Yes, sir, Mr. Cochran.
No, Mr. President. I don't fault the way the city of Trenton utilized our cities. They've been used well. Our mayor has used our cities very efficiently and very creatively, and is able to not only concern about RCAs is the source of the money. And housing is a complex issue, and RCAs are just a small part of it. They're disproportionately, they get the attention. But my concerns with the source for RCAs are three in nature. One is that it lets suburban municipalities off the hook. They throw breadcrumbs at us as opposed to actually developing mixed income neighborhoods. I think RCAs let the state off the hook. They can say to urban municipalities like Trenton, well, you get money through RCAs, we don't need to provide you additional money to bring out neighborhoods that are sorely in need of it. And I do think residents, it's not those within Trenton. There have been folks who benefited greatly from RCAs in Trenton. If you look at some of the demographics, job growth currently is not matching the geographic location of affordable housing growth. So I'm glad that we have at least an understanding that something is going to change one way or the other. My esteemed colleague from the West Fork stole my thunder a little bit. It relates to Mr. Clark brought up whether we affect or are affected by state laws. Well, this is a chance for us to have an impact rather than simply react when legislation comes through. I would much prefer that rather than react, we seek to have an impact. So I'd certainly like to hear from the public comment. I'd like to hear from developers, recipients. For me, the grounders are the state must provide urban municipalities with money to rehabilitate neighborhoods. They've got to do that. And I think that's the groundwork for me. At the same time, I think suburban municipalities also need to give affordable housing opportunities, so much as they have been. And my hope, my goal for this is that we can come to some sort of a consensus, an understanding with the leadership of the mayor, who's taken a very proactive stance on this and is pushing it, the issue in a positive direction. As a body, we could, entrusted by the will of the people, speak for the city of Trenton and extend it to our legislators and all the legislators and say, this is what we have to have, and these are some suggestions for it. Thank you, Mr. President. Also, Mr. President, thank you for the time to talk about this issue.
Any comments? Ms. Davis, ma'am.
Mr. President, I just want to talk about some use of RCAs, and for me, I have always been in favor of using them for neighborhood stabilization, which is big to me. I think that need to give neighborhoods the make a great city, and the RCA funds can make a Trenton to do just that, revitalize a lot of our neighborhoods. What I'm hearing now, though, is a different sentiment. At one point, I thought a lot of folks felt it was wrong of us to take money, to just take the RCA funds. In fact, that we should refuse them and just let any of our housing needs or housing plans just come to a halt. Just because it was the wrong thing for suburban municipalities to throw breadcrumbs to Trenton. And I am here to tell you that those breadcrumbs turn into bread pudding for Trenton, because we have been able to do some wonderful things in the North Ward, South, and all the wards actually. All the wards that benefited from it. And so, while I agree with my councilwoman that reform is needed, I'm certainly looking forward to coming up with some different strategies and some suggestions that we can make to the state with regards to revamping the policy on it. I would never, until that particular day comes, I will still always welcome any kind of funding level that comes to help Trenton meet its housing goals, and to meet the needs of the residents in Trenton who want to live in Trenton and want to be able to own a home with the on the salaries that they have. A lot of folks aren't eligible for the really high price homes, and so you have to for that's no reason why we can't deny them the opportunity to own property in Trenton. And so when those opportunities present themselves for affordable housing, I will always be in favor of it by any funding source available.
Hey, let me comment to the extent, I didn't know how this discussion was going to be led today, to be honest with you, but I'm hearing a couple of things with regard, because I know one, I'm hearing both sides, I don't know if this would be more of a philosophical discussion or more of a discussion based on the data that's out there that says Trenton utilizes RCA to a very extent. I think also we should be mindful that this is a bill that probably won't be heard this year for obvious purposes due to elections. And that dives directly into the politics with regards to urban areas, suburban areas, and rural areas. We're sitting here talking about a global issue in terms of the state of New Jersey. Realistically, we can only talk about its impact in the 7 square miles of the city. Realistically, the impact of RCAs and East Windsor Township, for instance. I recall sitting here and signing off millions of dollars for that township, and then in place of that, or in lieu of that, they built multi-million-dollar homes in its place. And that infuriated me, but to the same extent, I know that we had a need in the city that had to be fulfilled. And I'm always the type of person that's going to represent those who put me in office. And that's where I come from politically on that. The other thing is, this is an issue that will probably end up going back to the courts again, unfortunately. I just don't think that the state legislature has the gumption. The fact of the matter is, it needs the money that we put. You talked about the city being a melting pot, Mr. T. I agree with you. And Mr. Staten just mentioned the city having needs. And one of the, at least from my perspective, our responsibility is to provide for the general health and welfare of the citizenry in our town. and whether that's through health, whether that's through recreation, whether that's through providing good, affordable, or quality homes. You know, we don't hear much conversation with regards to the market rate housing that's going on, to the senior rate housing that's going on. Seniors live on affordable income. No one would ever dare challenge an affordable senior complex in the city of Trenton. But, you know, in Ewing Township, they got condominiums for seniors that are at astronomical prices. So there's a need, there's many needs that need to be met. Whether we solve those globally, statewide, at this table, probably won't happen. But I think if we focus our arguments to the impact in Trenton and how we can make a difference here in the city of Trenton, I think we'll be in good shape. And lastly, I really do challenge anyone, as you walk around the city of Trenton, ride around the city of Trenton, stop, knock on the door, and say, hey, was this house built with RCA monies? And how would you, and you go further, how would you know that? How would you know that? There's the anticipation that the house will be torn up, there'll be holes, patches in the grass, there'll be people of color. I mean, there's a stigmatism unfairly attached to this RCA program. There's nothing wrong with being a first-time homeowner and looking different in the same sense, in the same way. Most of these people work. Most of these people have mortgages. I think my major concern would be, I think the mayor's pushing this subprime lending. I mean, my major concern would be if these homes are being financed and mortgages are being financed, and that should be a discussion. Mr. Lecter, you should add that into your piece. Are these people being primed for
Red line?
Red line, or primed for what's the other? Not subprime, but what happened out on Mulberry Street?
That's right.
What would you call it again?
President, just so you know, the chief and I had some discussion and shared some information actually.
What's the term that I'm looking for again? Help me out.
They red line.
They're not red line.
They gave them high.
Yeah, but I think it's the term. When you get a loan that you can't pay off. Predatory lending. Thank you very much. Put that back again. Predatory lending, absolutely, as a tool to try to get people.
Community reinvestment act.
And
We're doing our homework.
Yeah. Well, that's been around a long time. It's been around a long time.
1977.
Yeah, it's been around a long time. So I think the question is whether that's working. So, I mean, there's a lot of. Well, I agree. I agree. So, I mean, we should add some of those things in this discussion as well. So the question is, where do we go from here, ladies and gentlemen?
President?
Please.
Stockton? All right, I'd like to set the agenda, if I may, if it's okay with council, to move forward in the first order of business being the information that I requested. We take a look at that and then set the schedule for the people to come in to do pros, cons, and in the middle.
Any questions or comments?
Mr. President, Councilwoman Peake, I wanted to add to your list of information. And the list you have is excellent, but certainly the kind of statistics we need to have a good dialogue, intelligent dialogue on these RCAs. But I'm wondering if you can get information on the actual homeowners that are in the city of Trenton now, that are living in RCA funded for them. And the reason why I answer that is there's another stereotype that's going on, that folks who live in these RCA homes are, they're poor. They won't know how to take care of these homes. Or, if you get an RCA project in your neighborhood, it's just going to go down. It just does the opposite. But I would submit to you that for every kind of home you live in, you have to get a mortgage, and you cannot go to a bank hat in hand. You've got to have some kind of credit worthiness, and I think that if folks have made a commitment to purchasing a home, then they have made a conscious decision also to take care of that investment. So I just want to get it without, getting privacy or anything like that. But
how many people take advantage of
these families? Like, 50,000 is not a it's not advanced out, it's not everything, but it's workable. I mean, folks need to just really understand what families are making in this town, and that the neighborhood's there, and they've come to see the benefit, and not that.
I'd like to include it, that would be included in the housing survey that we asked for, so that we know what our market, moderate, and affordable is. I think that that's going to be critical to some understanding. And I just want to say to the record, Mr. President, that tonight, actually, at this table, looking for balance. I'm not going to be focused on engaging racists, bigots, ignorance, or anybody else.
Right.
I am focused on balance. And so in that, I think a better understanding for the entire council of what's here and where we move to. Because affordable housing is going to happen. We all agree with that. How it happens is what we're concerned about. So I would ask for the housing survey so that we have an understanding simply to begin with, and then determine what it is we want to hear. If we're simply going to be looking for public comment, then there would actually be no need to set an agenda. If you want good, informative, factual information, you set an agenda and select your speakers. That's not to say that the people don't get to speak. They absolutely get to speak. But we're looking to gather information and not emotion. So I just want to keep that in mind as well. Mr. President, I'm asking that, if it's okay with the rest of the council, that the first part of it be that the survey, so that we know what's here and what we're doing.
Well, any information provided to help us, especially is always appropriate. And I agree with you. I think the intent of law is to try to create balance, but in this attempt to create balance, it creates a loophole. And it's that loophole that's out there that needs to be closed. Now, again, what actions we take or actions we don't take as to inviting certain folks here will only be the action of this body and will not have no bearing. Well, I should say have no bearing. Well, let me say, may not necessarily have a bearing on the final decision of what comes out in a state law.
Can we set the agenda, Mr. President, with the survey?
But with regards to attempting to talk about how it impacts us being Trenton, us being an urban municipality, and what we've done, is always appropriate.
That should be part of the first part.
I don't even need to put that in motion. There seems to be just consensus to that on the table. So
is that all right?
That's fine with me.
All right then, so we shall move forward. I'm done.
You know what, just in the interest of fairness, I know there's some people here that may want to make comments to that effect. I would ask that you be very, very brief, because we've had public comment on it, but I would ask that you limit your comments to just a minute or two at best, okay? But I know a few people are sitting behind me. Let me start to my right. I'm on my way right. You come over there. You want to my media right? Yes, sir.
Deon Clark.
State your name for the record.
Deon Clark, Mr. President, 323 Walnut Avenue, East Ward, Wilbur section. I think Councilwoman Lateef summed it all up beautifully. And I just want to remind you, Mr. President, Councilwoman Lateef, Councilman Gino Malone, Councilwoman Dee Dee Staten, and the Commander-in-Chief. Y'all are born and bred Trentonians. When it comes time to vote, just do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Paul Harris, 137 Center Street. I just wanted to say in the 137 Center Street.
Okay, you talk so fast.
Yeah. And transparency is important. This is a.
Mr. Harris, I swear to God, I can't hear you, sir.
Wow, that's.
Slow down. Slow down.
Oh, am I going too fast? Okay.
Yes.
Transparency is important. This is a fascinating issue that I'm studying myself at the college. So I think that if folks are ignorant about, do not have the knowledge that they need or the data they need, then it's important for us to bring it to them. So if it's transcript or if someone's setting up a tripod and taping these hearings that you do and then putting these on the website or even emailing these out to folks or even having the mayor inform folks that there will be these hearings and you can have them in the big room. But if people do not have the data, then let's do our responsibility as the educated elite is and say, you know what, we're going to do everything we need to do to allow you to come out. And I think it's important. So we can say in the end that no matter what, we went out on a limb to make sure that you had all the data that you need. And I think that's important. If you're not already doing it, especially utilizing the website for those people who work in offices and sit at a desk for 8 hours a day, that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. Anyone else to my left? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address.
Frank Regan, 326 Allen Street. Just a couple of quick points. I know I spoke about before.
Frank, please, you have to speak up just again. We can't hear you back up this end. Windows open.
A couple of quick points I've spoken on it before. I don't want to belabor it, but really I wanted to clarify two things. One is that people who object to RCA don't object to building affordable housing, whether it's in Trenton or elsewhere. What they object to is that this is the one instance where the state has been able to require other municipalities to contribute their fair share, to pitch in, to help out and create affordable housing opportunities. It's the only time that this has happened. And then we create a loophole where these municipalities can get out of that very small contribution that we ask them to make. And we should ask them to make it. And I can tell you this, it's the city of Trenton, the city of Newark, and the other municipalities that are the most burdened in terms of poverty that are taking this. And how can you expect the state of New Jersey to have the so-called gumption to do a reform if you do not have the gumption to refuse the RCA and make a strong statement that you don't want to accept these, that you expect other municipalities to take on this small amount of responsibility.
Thank you. Anyone else from my line? Okay, yeah. Yes, sir. Please state your name and address for the
Donald Brocate, 104 Cornwall Avenue, Trenton. One thing with regard to the surveys that I am concerned about is that they capture a true snapshot of what we're trying to capture here. Surveys are only as good as who participates in them. So if we're missing a segment of the population, it will not give you a true result. Okay?
That survey's not something that's going to take place now. That survey's already in place. We know who has marketing. We know who has it is to come here.
That was my one concern. The other thing is that in principle, RCAs may not be what they are supposed to be, and for purists, it may be a thorn in their side that there was a loophole in the Mount Laurel legislation. But in my mind's eye, as a resident of this city and as someone who does redevelopment here in this city, whether we call it monopoly money, it doesn't matter. As long as the city was getting the money that it needed to do redevelopment projects like the Battle Monument or on Bellevue Avenue. However we call it, whatever we had to do to get it, having that money to do what we needed to do with it was very important. So if some people think we sullied our hands by taking RCA money that should have been, the suburbs should have been doing affordable housing, as far as I'm concerned, who cares? We got what we needed done for the city, for the residents of this city of Trenton with that money. So if they want to call it something next year, if they want to change legislation and revamp the system, as long as we can get those same dollars, I don't care what it's called, as long as we can do what we need to do here for the people that live in this city.
You sum up my statement. I was too long. Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and address for the record. Pardon my bad.
Zenobia Fields with the Regional Planning Partnership going to West State Tribe. And I'm speaking on behalf of a nonprofit that has been dealing with affordable housing since 1958. And we know from our experience that regional contribution agreements, they don't necessarily support increasing the standard of living. They provide an affordable unit, but if that affordable unit is still in the context of job loss or bad schools or higher taxes, it's really not helping the quality of life for the residents. So what we would say is that Trenton right now has already fulfilled their affordable responsibility. Right now, over half of the affordable housing units in the state are concentrated in 20 municipalities. Trenton is one of those municipalities. So instead of, if you actually want to increase your standard of living, you need to have neighborhoods of mixed income. Mixed income would allow you to have better jobs that offer straight career ladders, to get better schools for those things. So what we're offering is that our resources where we also work with the New Jersey Regional Coalition, the Coalition we're offering to bring people like consultants, decision-makers from consultants, so they can speak to you, but they've already gone down the path of rejecting using a contribution limits and telling you about them from their perspective. And that we ask that you consider the alternative sources that Assemblyman Roberts is recommending. So we're not saying that you should give him that funding source, but look into alternatives.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? All right, so, thank you all for your comments. We'll prepare something,
Mr. President, just for the record, let me just say this. Senator Roberts has
Assembly.
requested modification on that bill. And that's what they're working on right now. And that's what I said in the beginning, that will be making a tremendous impact on what we are going to be doing here today and in the days coming. So I just want to stay on point. Pennsauken is not Trenton. Right?
I knew that, but
and although, for the record, but we're interested in hearing what they have to say. And that's what the workshop is all about. We're interested in hearing what they have to say.
The other thing is, you don't have to go to Pennsauken. You go right to Hamilton and RCD. You go to neighboring municipalities and say, hey, why haven't you shut the RCD? Tell us why have you signed off and not put up your option, if they want to.
RCAs are double-edged swords.
If they want to visit, any municipality here in Mercer County, if they
the point I'm making, Mr. President, is I don't want to be lulled to sleep by somebody or anybody. I'm sorry, I didn't catch the young lady's name.
It's Zenobia Phillips.
Ms. Phillips?
Fields.
Make some excellent points. I'm going to move away from you now, okay? And say that I don't want this council to be lulled to sleep by information that would not meet the demographics here, okay? That's going to be very important. That's one of the reasons why we all agreed that it's going to be good factual information. Because what we have here, we don't have actually in Hamilton. What Hamilton has, Hopewell doesn't have. Hopewell has, Hamilton doesn't have. So that's one of the reasons why this needs survey is so important. And the survey of Trenton is so important because we've got to deal with the reality of Trenton and how we're going to move forward, okay? I don't want to compare apples and oranges because we agree on one basic thing, and that is reform must happen. No, we agree on several things. That there's a need for affordable housing. Reform must happen. There has to be a balance, all right? We agree on that. So in moving forward, that's what we're looking for, balance, different ideas that other people have done. Because let me tell you something. There's no way in the world anybody but Jesus could have stopped me from doing Bellevue Avenue. Okay? And I love Jesus. He's the only one that can stop me. I'm telling you.
Jesus loves RCD.
I don't know about that, but I'm telling you, he loves me.
He does love you.
That's right. So what I'm saying is, Mr. President, you got to stay on point. You got to stay on point. Deal with our demographics, get our needs survey, that's what we agreed to do, and let's set some dates and move forward so we can go home. Ma'am, Mr. President.
Well, I mean, how, we know the sources? We have sources?
We first have to get the needs survey.
That's not what I asked you. I'm saying, have you identified the sources of where that information will be obtained from, first and
There are
foremost?
several sources. Part of it's going to be city and part of it's going to be the census, and this is going to be our
Let's start that process prior to, I mean, you can put a date down.
No, we got to put a date down. If not, we're going to be long.
I mean, I don't know, obtaining the information will precipitate enough time to put a date together. But if you want to put a date together.
I have most of the information. I'm trying to be the state for you.
No, don't be the state. Just give us the information.
So we said May 8th.
Is that when they give us the information? Is that when we'll have the information?
Yes, we'll have what we need. Let it do a date.
May 8th will be the date of this.
Yes, no, but they, not for the needs survey.
Oh, no,
The
well,
needs survey
no,
is Trenton,
no, for
and
the,
that's what we're dealing with first.
not for the survey, but I'm saying for the first.
All right, that's surrender. You passed my time.
All right.
I surrender. I don't have patience. I'm done. I just don't.
You want to set a date?
I asked the president if we could do it.
No, I'm looking at the calendar. You said May 8th. Is that what you said, May 8th?
Maybe, Mr. President, if you so desire, May 22nd.
No, I mean, as soon as, pardon?
What's going to happen on the day at the end of
No, she's just talking
whatever
about the
we have
agenda.
on the table, we're going to
Agenda
discuss
item
it
for
the needs
Tuesday,
to
that's all.
that. And I hope it won't take as long as it took tonight.
Well, the question is, that's what I'm saying. Do you know, if you have certain information, then make sure that we have it and that, or that we're directed to it. And then we'll get it from there. May 8th is fine.
May this for discussion Chief, you'll work with Mr. Carabelli to see if you get some of the information that's already on the board. Yes. Thank you. And I'll get you what I need.
Silly matters. Silly matters. Mr. Cochran.
To get some accolades, contacted the administration, campaign, getting involved about a couple issues in the past 10 days, and they reacted swiftly to both. Took care of them, I appreciate that. And for public record, Mr. Lenny, we're here. He held some quality of life hearings for some issues in my ward, and he's held them very quickly and done a good job with them. I appreciate that. Also, they took care of a lot since he was coming to today. So he's been doing a good job in the South. Thank you.
Mr. President, I'd also, as you move forward with this, just quickly want to keep on the fact, the front burner, the very front burner, that we're going to have to start doing the poverty issues. So that's going to be some of the stuff that's coming up. So anybody who's before done any research as it relates to the city and urban cities, so like I do in institution. That's it.
Mr. Malone?
Nothing, Mr. President.
Mr. Segura, followed by Mr.
No, sir.
Mr.
Mr. President, not at this time.
Mr. Cochran, in lieu of Mr. Lefebvre.
Thank you, Mr. President, for the motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
No. Okay, sure,
Second, approved, agreed. God bless, good night.